This conference will now be recorded. This conference will now be recorded.
Just trying to research on how we can possibly have a field dedicated to RC flying, whether it's sanctioned by the club up in Oak Harbor or what. I built a field for myself. I can do that. Not everyone can, but it's not suitable for public access, so that's out. And just wondering what your guys' thought to that were.
Thank you, James. So this is public comment is for you to express any concerns or comments that you want to give to the board. It is not an open discussion. So you are looking for some sort of dedicated field for remote control airplanes. So
yeah, and that's very in line of safety and a little bit of AMA control. There's a number of issues. I don't want to step on what the guys are doing now, but I would like to see something better.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right.
So we have other people that seem to have come in, so I will unmute them, and I'm going to start with Jan. You can unmute yourself if you have something to say or anything for public comment. Okay, and they're gone. All right. Jim, I'm sending you an unmute request if you would unlike to unmute yourself. There you go. If you have something for public comment.
No comment at this time.
Okay.
All right. Having no further public comment. All right, we will move on to the approval of the minutes. Has every commissioner had an opportunity to review May 17th, May 22nd, and June 1st? We are still awaiting the April 19th, so it would just be the final three, May 17th, May 22nd, and 6/1. Has every commissioner had an opportunity to review?
Yes.
All right. Are there any?
Just confirming that the meetings from the May 22nd and the 1st were, they're not regular meetings, they were special meetings, right?
Oh,
Yeah, and that says that.
It's
Yep,
a-
special meeting.
Okay.
yeah, the
Thank
fifth
you.
is May 17th. I think it was.
May 17th was
Was
the
the
regular,
regular.
22 and 1 were special. Yep.
Is there a typo that needs to be corrected?
Just.
All right, are there any changes or questions?
No, I will make a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting on May 17th, the special meeting on May 22nd, and the special meeting on June 1st.
I'll second that.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the regular meeting minutes from May 17th, the special meeting minutes from May 22nd, and the special meeting minutes from June 1st. All those in favor say aye.
Eric, aye.
Krista, aye.
Jake, aye.
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it and the motion passes. The minutes are approved. All right, moving on to the treasurer's report. Carrie, I'm assuming you're delivering that on Matt's behalf?
I thought Matt was here.
Well,
He is
he's
not.
not.
Matt, are you able to do the treasurer's report, or do you think there is a point at which you will be able to, such that we should postpone it? He's maybe commenting. He asked us to defer for 5 minutes. So perhaps we can adjust the agenda.
All right, can do. We will move then into, so just completely the treasurer's report. Do you want to move into vouchers or do you want to move on to the staff report?
I think we can do vouchers.
All right, let's move to the vouchers then, please.
Okay, so displayed on the screen, I don't have a copy there, but what you have is a list of the purchases. It's kind of a new form. It should be second or third, right after the minutes, that right there, Krista. Okay, so what is different over what was previously seen? Payroll was updated. We added a refund for sailing camp, another refund for sailing camp, a refund for nature camp, a refund for swim lessons, a credit card purchase of Adobe Creative Cloud, and marking chalk spray for the triathlon. We updated the figures for deferred compensation and PERS retirement. And we updated the amount for Western equipment. The bill was for $622 and change, and they sent something that we did not order. And so that amount is the credit, and that you will be paying $258.67. I updated the payroll taxes, and that is it. Do you have any questions?
So we don't have a current vouchers list in front of us with those changes.
You have, Krista, that one?
The
So
purchase-
there's a total on that, correct? At the very bottom?
On the back.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
the grand
Electronic.
total.
So the grand total is $142,237.73.
Correct.
Yeah, it changed by about $112 from the previous.
Right, are there any?
So I'm not seeing the Adobe, where's the Adobe?
It's under Visa. Oh, you wouldn't see it on there because it's included within that Visa.
Visa Heritage Bank, $798.99. That, the whole thing is for the Adobe?
No.
No. Okay.
So here, oops, where is it? Sorry for if I'm making anybody sick here. Okay, so as you can see up there.
Okay.
So that,
Oh, okay, I see.
so the Adobe Creative Cloud is
Oh,
$21.75.
okay, gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And the credit was $364.26.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Can you guys hear me okay now?
We can, yes, thank you, Matt. All right, if there
Okay, yeah,
are
so I have the
no-
total.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, is it correct that I have the total at 142,337.73?
Yes. That's correct.
Okay. And if there are no questions, I can make a motion to approve the vouchers from the M&O fund for $142,237.73.
I'll second that motion.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the voucher list in the amount of $142,237.73. All those in favor say aye.
Eric, aye.
Krista, aye.
Jake, aye.
Matt, aye.
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, the motion passes, the voucher list is approved. All right, Matt, are you at a point where you would like
Yep.
to?
I
Thank you.
can talk to this. Can you see the slide okay?
Yes.
Okay, well, so this is the overall slide, again, showing current through May as roughly 73,000 favorable. You'll see the detail, most of it is on the expense side. So if you want to go to the next slide, we'll look at revenue. Revenue, this is again cumulative through 5 months, and you can see we're just slightly positive, roughly 10K favorable. And the bulk of that is coming from programs favorability. Sorry. And the The tan line below the line, unfavorable, is levy, running just 5K unfavorable for the year to date. Next slide shows the expense side of it, which is the other 63K favorable. So you can see the admin expense control from our executive director savings is the big contributor to the 63K positive. If you go to the final slide is fund balances, and they reflect that we are on plan through May. So any questions on any of those slides or any other financial topics? Okay, thank you, Jen.
Thank you, Matt. All right, ready for the staff report, Carrie?
Okay, so our first softball games were on Friday, June 16th. We had 8 teams this year, which is definitely an increase from the other years. The most we ever had was 9 teams, so it's good. It's a good turnout. As you can see displayed, we have a bunch of programs coming up. We're definitely into the summer season. The phone's ringing off the hook, and you'll notice a lot of refunds, but what that has to do with is not, dissatisfaction or anything like that. It's people shuffling their schedules. So that's what that is. And Tom, you can talk about facilities and grounds.
Yep. We own it. So that's a new issue. I see you got that one up there. Deer Lake, the concrete block that provides access to the swimming, we'll call it the swimming dock, has been undermined. I've asked for 10 plus years that they do something to stabilize the shoreline there that's constantly getting eroded. And it's actually undermined that, and now it's tipped down. So it's actually a trip hazard to get onto it, and then it's kind of very awkward getting onto that. I think Carrie reached out to Derek. We've got no response still. So no response from Fish and Wildlife at all. It's a safety hazard. I have to tell you, if they cannot respond when we have things to deal with, we have to seriously question our relationship with them and maintaining their stuff. Because we've asked for a meeting this spring to do our walk around, no response. I don't know who's ultimately responsible, but the water's edge, that is them.
Do we have, do you know what his title is with Derek's?
Not off the top of my head. I can tell you later.
I mean,
He's
been
I don't have a phone
yeah.
number for him either.
Yeah.
We've also had troubles, like they pump the vault toilets. They were notified to be paid months ago, and it still hasn't been paid.
So they have been pumped, but we have not been paid.
They have not, yeah. So Gabeline brothers have not been paid yet. So,
Gotcha.
yeah, so, and I keep following up on that saying, because I keep getting the invoice saying, hey, are you gonna pay this? Are you gonna pay this?
So it's not reimbursement, they just get paid.
They pay it directly.
Okay, and he is our only contact?
He always has been since day one. Yep.
Has it responded better in the past?
Yeah.
Well,
It seems like it's been ongoing challenge to get a hold of him.
Yeah.
But at least we could meet, at least we could meet, do a walk around.
Right, it would take a little time, but we would
But
eventually get there.
So anyway, it's
Okay.
It's just very, very frustrating to, try to babysit someone else's property and you have an issue like this. We're going into swimming season and somebody's going to get hurt, and so I don't know what to do with it.
What's the big circular spot in the middle of the metal? I'm assuming that's the metal ramp that comes down. Is that just wear? Is
That's
that
just
what I'm
wear and
looking at?
tear.
Yeah, it's actually, it's a piece of like marine grade plywood.
Oh,
Right
so it's
there.
not even metal.
No,
Okay.
that's plywood, and that needs to be replaced. If you look at the gangplank, the dock going out,
Okay.
he came and he screwed pieces of plywood over it because it's completely broken. Like if when I'm walking out there, if you step in the wrong spot, you go through.
Right.
And so kids running that thing with bare feet, it's bad. It's really bad.
Yeah, fully agree.
And the problem with Focus is that is not for fishing. And
No.
so they're not concerned with it.
Yeah.
As far as a renovation project or something like that. I believe you said Island County actually installed that.
I believe so. Before we.
Is he based out of a certain area?
What's that?
Is he based out of a certain area?
He's all over.
Yeah.
I mean, like all Western Washington. That's the problem. He's got like 300 sites.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I've started a draft here. I have a little bit of a relationship with somebody who is a Department of Fish and Wildlife Region 4 lands agent. I don't know if they're gonna be of any help.
If they could just get us on there.
But yeah, if I could, I'll reach out and see if I can get any kind of anything. This is the person who gives me the permit to run programming at Gus Lake.
Would you like me to forward you the emails that I've been sending him?
That would be really helpful. She swam in the Wise last year. So we have some would-be maybe sympathies that I would try to call upon, right? And see if I can get us a contact or something.
Sure.
So related to that, I just noted in my report that our agreement for the lakes goes through October 31st of 25.
Yeah, I remember when we did that new agreement. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess my other report, did you want me to talk about today?
Oh, sure, you can mention that, yeah, go ahead.
So we did the geotechnical test pits today. I dug five holes. Sounds like the next thing in about a month, they're gonna bring another, kind of like a skid steer out here, and they're going to do 20-foot boreholes all across that property. That's the next thing that they're gonna do on that property, so.
How many?
And
I don't know, if there was a
Yeah.
number.
Tom, was this the guy, Scott?
Scott was not here. I think he's the one that was communicating with me, but he was not on site.
Got it. Okay.
Which property is this?
We'll say.
The pool site.
So that first part of the geotechnical is done. Sounded like July 20th. First, they'd be back to do 20-foot boreholes. So anyway, yeah. So that's been completed. It sounded like maybe 4-inch. Pretty small.
Oh, okay.
Pretty small.
Are you doing the initial dig so that they can do that? Do they then do that other 20?
No,
That's
they're
completely separate.
two separate tests.
Gotcha.
So basically, they were looking at soil type. Similar to a perk hole, they had a different test where we would dig to a depth, they would say stop, they would go sample what the soil was. Then they had this rod with a weight, and they would have to drive it down about 4 inches. And they counted how many hits it took to drive it down that far. So that's like how accepting the soil is. So
Interesting.
it was different than any perk test I've ever done, but It's the same thing. So 4 of the holes were absolutely horrible. I mean, just garbage. And then one, like literally like right outside the window here was actually pretty decent. So it looks like they were looking for infiltration for parking lot runoff. Anyway, that was that. I'm talking about the roof in this one.
No, the roofing is on the last item on the agenda, sorry.
All right.
But if you wanted to touch on the parking area behind Castle Park Playground,
Okay.
the budgeted capital item for 23, or grading for the pickleball project.
Okay. So I got a hold of Morley and Sons, come out, had a look again at the parking expansion behind Castle Park. He gave us a number. Terry and I have been looking into the bidding, getting quotes, kind of how we have to do it. The threshold is $20,000. If we go over $20,000, then we're going to have to go out to seal bids, bid bonds, and all that stuff, which neither one of us has ever done. We say under $20,000, then we get 3 quotes and award. So his bid came in at 18,000 change, I believe.
Yes.
And so a lot of this preliminary getting people to respond, it's nearly impossible because they're so busy. And so we do have one, it's within that threshold. Do you want me to proceed, get 2 more so we can award that? That would be a fall project. So getting the ball rolling now.
Is that everything? Is that everything in that parking? I know what you're talking about.
So it would be clearing trees, grubbing it all out, grading, and for that price, that's grading the rock as well, gravel.
Okay, so it's the whole.
It's a completed
It's
gravel.
complete.
And that's disconnected from the asphalt path that we're walking around right over in that same parking area. You're talking about, retrofitting, I think, that path of it.
There is a dirt path that goes from the existing parking area to the skate park.
Right.
So it would be encompassing that area, but leaving a buffer between the skate park. And basically leaving all the large cedar trees on the right side.
Right. No, I get that. I guess what I meant was that actual path that accesses the skate park as well.
Yeah, it would not connect to it.
Okay. So that remains the same parking area in a loop, like I remember when we walked in looking at it. But the access points are still the concrete and the path, correct?
At this point.
And that's not,
there is an opening just to the right there.
Yeah.
That goes in the backside of the playground.
Right.
So if you want me to, I can try and get 2 more quotes for that project and bring that back. Okay?
Yeah.
Next one, at the same time, I had him come back and look at the pickleball area. We talked about that. They're getting closer to having a large amount of fill they're looking to get rid of that we could utilize. It would actually help us construct and shape the access to an eventual parking lot where the pickleball court is going to go. So the price I got was to basically come in, cut, fill, scrape, and rough out the pickleball area and get that to a pad that is basically ready to go.
Okay.
So again, I think it was 7,000.
74.
The way things are done with the campground project, I think the more that we can do up front, be ready to roll, is a good move.
Especially if it puts us in a position to accept some fill.
Yes. Yeah, because we can,
And that's from Morley as well.
yes. So again, I can try and get 2 more. That one is not budgeted. However, if you look at my capital, we've got 36,000 roughly for asphalt improvements. We could shift and shape and pull $7,000 out of that. And
Take
So-
advantage of an opportunity and
so So if you guys want to, we'll same thing. That will be a late summer, fall project, you know, when it's really dry out there and everything's really stable, not dealing with mud and that type of thing. So a lot of this is timing based, you know, so you can try and get people to respond. It's hard.
So is MOC on your list?
We should check and see if they are on our roster or smaller roster.
Oh, okay. MOC.
MOC. And would be topsoil and,
It'll come back.
General.
Anyway,
So if they're bringing fill, are they bringing it around the backside then?
they would.
DeMartini. It's not Brian.
TNT.
Tim,
Yeah.
TNT.
Yep, I can contact them.
And then, what about, Layman, what's his name? I think maybe he's doing more septic stuff, no, Eric.
Eric Lehman.
Yeah. I know he was doing some earth stuff, but I think maybe
Sure.
he's gotten more into septic stuff, but, yeah, TNT.
It's just a crapshoot with some of these guys. I mean, you call and they're like, I got 2 years of work. You know?
Yeah, it's gonna be a little tricky because you're getting this bonus part from,
Right, exactly.
Especially on that
yeah,
one, because it's still.
which they're not gonna be providing in their.
That's why I'm asking, because how that fill gets there, isn't that coming through the existing parking lot where the pickleball's being played and?
Yes,
Correct.
yes.
Yeah, so they have to come around with the dump truck, and I'm assuming it's not all at once because the fill, as fill goes, is kind of.
Well, we talked, and what they would do, once that project starts, they basically stockpile that material, and he said they'd be running 3 trucks.
All, so they
Just
get all
boom,
the.
boom, boom, like, so like a day, pickleball courts are shut, and they're hauling all day.
Got it.
Type thing, and then along with that, they're bringing in a bulldozer, and they're moving and shaping and filling, and so I mean, it sounds like the volume of fill that they're going to bring us, we could pretty much have the parking area across the path shaped and done.
Wow.
So I mean, we're stretching our dollars by accepting this.
Yeah.
So.
It seems like maybe we should just do that.
Yeah, I'm in total support of it.
So that one in itself, yeah, if you guys want to move forward, I mean, we could definitely, you know, meet with them and get that rolling, or at least get it booked. So.
Yeah, I'd say still try to get more quotes
Sure.
to do that and then approve it officially at the next meeting.
Well, how soon does he need to get, I mean, he's looking this far out to get rid of a bunch of fill. How long is he gonna hold that for us?
He will.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
I will make that happen.
All right, thank you.
And I have a comment on the cedar trees. Are they decent size at all?
They are. Some. There's not a lot.
I mean, if we could stow some of the logs.
How many logs do you want? Because I've got wood laying every.
Cedar? Oh,
I've got a whole pile right next to my shop right now. I mean, stuff this big, almost that big. Stuff that came down in the storms that we haven't even dug out. Okay. If you want cedar, there's not going to be a lack.
well, for the campground, it's just so valuable for whether it's bump stop for a car or bank reinforcement.
Oh, yeah.
So just
And there's a lot down on that property. There's a lot of tops that blew out in the storms, big cedar tops and stuff like that. So,
Do we have a splitter?
yeah.
I was just thinking for the campground later.
Maybe someday we need one. Yeah. Get to that point.
well, cedars.
Yeah.
Not great
So-
for that.
No, I was thinking. I was thinking in general.
So those were the major ones we think we want to talk about.
Yeah, the other stuff I think will be in the capital
What
budget
about
discussion.
the lower?
Capital budget.
Capital budget.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, other than that, the park is absolutely busy, crazy, summer camps, chaos everywhere. It's growing like crazy. The rain was nice. Softball's going. It's games tonight, so it's The place is being used like I've never seen it.
So you don't think we need any of these cedar logs? You think we have?
No, that was part of that pricing.
That they get to keep them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because when we initially talked, he's like, well, we can do where we can split the cost, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I don't want to deal with board footage and worried about, you know, how much total and did we get 50%? I'm like, you can market it, take it, just take it off the bill. Just give me a best price. So that the newest bill we got from him was that. Basically, they're going to take it and all the debris gone.
So it's a really good price.
There's really not that much. I mean, there might be close to the load, but it's not a huge amount of trees.
Okay.
So, and it's not all cedar. There's hemlock.
Yeah, get rid of that.
Exactly. Take it before it blows down.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that was, oh no, I'm sorry, one more thing. So the signs, so at the back of your little packet there is some examples of signs for trust land trails or maybe in general. And so this is for discussion. And then I also put the maps, not updated map of trust land trails. And partly I gave you this because I'm going to argue that we should skip the color coding.
Doesn't matter to me what you're getting.
So each one of these represents a different style of sign. And so some of them indicate, you know, what trail you're on
I do.
or what trail.
What's your thought for the color
Can you,
coding?
Carrie, can you share them into the meeting environment?
Can I share what?
Can you share the examples into the meeting environment?
Yes, yes. You see it?
Yep, got it. Thank you.
Okay, and unfortunately I don't have a map of trust land trails, but so people have a hard time distinguishing between the colors in a meaningful way, and especially if there's any sort of color blindness. But I've had conversations with people where we're both looking at the same map and they're trying to discuss, yeah, so they have a hard time with the colors. And because we have so many, it's, you know, this is a lot of different colors to be represented. I would just say we can label each trail.
This is on the ground, or this is on the trails, correct?
Yes.
Whereas this is an aerial printed thing on a board.
Yeah,
right?
and we would rather
And
print
it's periodically posted throughout.
Gotcha. I guess my point is, I don't think we need the colors on here unless we plan on chalking or spray painting the trails these actual colors, right? So there, I don't think we need.
So-
We don't need colors.
So the colors are in here, more like the bottom two with the stripe on the bottom. It was actually, it might be faded now, but when we originally had this done, whatever reason, they did colors. And so I just asked them to, like, give me these three options, see what you guys want to do. I think the pricing for all these small signs that are going to go on all the posts was $600 So not a lot of money for those, which leaves us money to do some, like an updated sign, overhead sign like we've done here at our kiosks and maybe out in a couple spots on the trails. So.
Yeah, and those were, like you were describing, Tom, they were blazed. So that was what I would expect. Red blazes, yellow blazes, green blazes, like we see in the woods.
All right.
So no color.
No color.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
Easier for when it gets vandalized. Just keep it white. Go back
Just
up.
with like this, like of a decent size so that people can take a picture of it. Or maybe a QR code, but some easy way that people can, as they're coming in, take a picture and have their own version of the map as they walk around.
Yeah, it might be good actually. I don't know if it would be possible to put a QR code.
They're going to be small.
Okay, yeah, okay.
They're like 5 by 5. They're pretty small.
Yeah, so it could be like a second one
Actually, that might be a really good idea if at the bottom of each one, there's a QR code to the map,
Yeah.
to the entire map, so that if people get to a certain point and they're like, oh, I don't know if I should,
Yeah.
I've got 15 minutes, which way should I go because I need to call it quit? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're trying to make a decision between a bigger loop and a smaller loop, and if they don't have the whole map on them.
Yeah.
So give me a link and I'll go talk,
Yeah.
talk to them next time I'm up there.
Yeah, it could just be a whole separate sign below, yeah.
We might be able to squeeze it right on there.
Yeah, squeeze it in, and it just says, you know.
Yeah, I mean, QR could,
QR
Well, these are
code
gonna
to whole
be
map or to entire, something
one by
that's.
one.
Yeah, the whole map.
Okay.
It just has to be able to be refreshed as the map gets updated, but yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay,
Thank
so from my input, so we've already addressed the Deer Lake issues and Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife. So we might want to, as we're discussing the comprehensive plan, address that piece, our agreement with WDFW at some point. Okay, so an agreement is in progress with the Backroads Tour Group that we discussed last month. When I contacted them, they seemed generally okay with the fee and general conditions of contacting us and letting us be updated. So I sent that to them, and the agreement was being reviewed by their finance team. That said, it's gone quiet, and they don't seem to be showing up for their tours, so not sure what that means, but it seemed like it was gonna be okay. But I will keep you updated as that goes along.
They've been making some changes to their route stay, I think, I think there have just been some changes and they're dealing with that, and that could be maybe why they're not quite sure yet.
Or they just don't want to pay.
That could be it too,
Yeah.
so.
They didn't seem to bat an eye at it when I mentioned the fee,
Yeah.
like, they seem, but
They
Could
could
be.
be. What was the proposed fee?
was it 1,200?
1,200.
Yeah. So coming up, we have the RCO Funding Board meeting, which starts on the 27th, but ends on the 28th, and the 28th is when they actually discuss the awards. I believe I provided a link to that on the website. Matt, are you planning to attend that still?
Yeah, I reached out to Allison and Marguerite, and I am currently planning to be there on day 2. The day 1 thing is their board retreat, and day 2 is the actual meeting where they're going to be, reading off the roles of the projects that got funded. So I'm hoping to be there in person, but if not, I'll dial in.
June 30th is a maintenance grant webinar that, for introduction to it, I guess, it's some sort of introductory thing. And Matt has been working on this maintenance grant, which is for deferred maintenance projects. So that's on the 30th, July 19th, our next board meeting. August 1st is the last day to file a resolution for the November general election. And we need to talk a little bit about upcoming public meetings regarding the design for the pool. In our last meeting with ARC, we were looking at the end of July, maybe into August. And I would say beginning of August, because we have the triathlon and everybody's gonna be and some vacation times. So I would say early August, maybe. I don't know if the commissioners would.
On both sides of that, get the public too being on vacation, quite
Yeah.
honestly. Get garnering people for those meetings be much better later, I
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah. So Eric or Matt, did you have a sense of whether the other commissioners should be there or just you and Eric or?
Yeah, I mean, it's, we obviously limited to 2, and I think to rotate through so that everybody has a chance to be at one. And if they can't, then Eric and I will fill in. So something like that.
I'm good with that.
And that's what we've done with the previous bond.
Well, and I think this is distinct from the bond. This is
Yeah,
more,
yeah.
This is the informational, thank you, sorry.
yeah, this is
Thank you.
information on the pool.
Yeah, this is public,
Design.
public feedback on the design that has been narrowed down. So it's, it's down to a final design concept. It's a chance to explain it to the public and talk through it with the architect present. So somebody says, well, hey, why does it look like this? The architect, and we don't have the answer. The architect is there to have the answer. And then what if we had 10 lanes instead of 6? Then the architect's there to say, well, that pushes us into the wetland, or it adds $1 million in cost, or, and then we can talk about the use case that, the numbers tell us from the feasibility study that 6 lanes is appropriate for the size of our community. So it's that kind of a feedback session specific to the design to get people informed and to take input from people.
Man, I was just thinking about the hours and hours of discussions we've had about design, and, the average person coming in is going to have all sorts of wonderful ideas, just like we do at those meetings. But being able to clarify that that was taken into consideration, different scope and why, I think is going to be the big part of it. If you don't have the history of those meetings, it's difficult to address.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think it'll be mostly Matt and Aaron needing to be at those, and then I don't know if anybody else wants to, but I think probably skip, yeah. We won't schedule it on a board meeting. That is it for the staff report.
Are those virtual?
No,
And we're
those
gonna
are,
have the architect involved?
no, those are in person. They're going to come.
You don't have dates yet.
Okay, and
Yes.
how many of them will there be?
Two.
Two with the architect.
Yep. Yeah, and they'll be in person with them physically present with the designs on boards like we've seen in the conference room there, and also online with the designs, in the online forum, so people can see them if they're dialed in.
So I guess if any of the other commissioners have strong preferences to be there, and I would just kind of need to know some dates that you could make it. And you can email
I'm
those to me.
happy to attend, but I would say go ahead and schedule based on Matt and Eric's schedules and the architects, and then we can, figure it out from there. You know what I mean?
And there's other informational meetings as well, so,
Yeah.
they'll be done.
You're right.
Okay. That's it for the staff report. Moving on to committee reports. No report is a fine response. You want to go down the list of committee?
If anyone has anything, just speak up.
I do not have anything to report.
I'll share the interlocal, because I was able to have discussions with Dr. Moshe, each of the principals, and some other administrative people in the district as well, about the advantages of right now being supportive, mutually supportive of each other in not only bond issues, but across the board. So I tried to nicely and very easily bring things into a simple focus of, right now is the perfect time for Park and Rec and the school district to be, talking about potential mutual use in the future. And I think Joe's receptive to that, as well as every principal, of course, is. We didn't necessarily talk financials as much, but more the fact that in a public meeting or forums that actually discuss, with the school board, for example, how can we look at ways to utilize gym space, utilize support for the bond and improvements. If we're building a turf field, artificial turf field at the high school, there's going to be times that Park and Rec would want to use that field and vice versa in terms of Park and Rec fields. So I tried to include gymnasiums, future potential use, mainly just communication. And to be quite honest, I don't think the school board nor Joe Moshe had a lot of, information. And so it's good just to talk about what Park and Rec is trying to do, the greater picture, and at the same time, the hopes of building relationships. The sticking issue, I think, in the past has been the old middle school community center, and how that's viewed by Park and Rec, and the school district. School district sees it as an outside entity renting now under their autonomous control. Joe was adamant about saying that the offer was there for Park and Rec to purchase the middle school and run Park and Rec out of there, which it was. Doug had brought that up, that
Not purchasing it.
that offer was on the table to manage. Yeah, not to purchase, but to actually take total control of it. And, but I also understand the limitations there and why Park and Rec responded the way they did. So trying to get beyond that and just moving forward, I thought it was very positive.
So how often do you meet with them?
How often do we meet? That was before I came on board. Doug had set up that committee, and so I jumped on the committee, obviously because of my connection to the schools, and thought it would be useful. So
we really got shut off. Once
right.
We did not take that over for her, we got just.
As far as I know, Tom, after that happened, the first meeting I was in was the only meeting. And,
I've been in one meeting in 4 years.
So.
And your meeting may have been prior to me coming on board.
Absolutely, yeah, it absolutely was.
Yeah.
I'm pretty
So
sure.
the last meeting I was in wasn't extremely productive. There was kind of some, walls being put up on both ends. So, once again, purpose being just try to get to a place where we can start creating some agreements.
Yep.
Well, so like one thing that I want to bring up, because I'm hitting the wall with the school is Wednesdays, these Wednesday half days. And when the kids are in a sport, it used to be that the school would allow the coaches to have the practice start right then. From what I've been told now there's mandatory meetings. They tell the kids, you have to leave. You have to go away. So the older kids with cars, they drive away. All those middle school age kids, where do they come? They come right up here unsupervised, and it is a cluster. And I've asked them, why can't you have somebody out on the baseball field supervising sports, whatever, open a gym, love shoots, whatever. But no, you have to leave. And what I've been told is they're not our problem. They're not our kids.
And I can say that
right back in an hour.
That's been an issue. I've been in the school district, 34 years, and Langley, the town of Langley, same issue. Meaning, what do you do on a half day? When kids are released to, it used to be, we get calls from stores.
Sure.
For the most part, kids were pretty good. But on the same token, it's difficult for the school to make that, it's great to come up with a plan. I'm not saying you can't do that, but in terms of legalities, and they don't, we're having issues just trying to get those kids out of the school because they don't have anywhere to go. So they want to hang out. Their parents don't want to pick them up because they're either at work or too far away. So I'm bringing it constantly to the attention, and so are other teachers. Teachers are concerned about that as well. There's just not a great answer readily available.
Can I ask a really stupid question? Why are there half-day Fridays?
Those are teachers. It's Wednesday.
It's every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday.
Every
Almost every school district has that. I don't really know too many school districts that don't. It varies on days to days, but the idea is it's in-service training for teachers. So it's to get all the teachers on the same page. Like it might be suicide prevention, it might be what each classroom is going to do in an advisory time to get students unified in an effort. So maybe it's drug prevention. It's across the board, but it's really the purpose is to get everybody on the same page instructionally within a district. So if you go to a big district, they'll do it. so the South Liberty.
So it wasn't as big of a deal until they brought the 7th and 8th grade. Next year, they're bringing the 6th graders up as well. So that's just more kids that can't get a ride, that are completely, that 6th, 7th, and 8th graders unsupervised. Horrible. That's the worst group that I deal with. I mean, they're literally, they're crawling the walls, they're climbing trees, vandalism in bathrooms is through the roof. I mean, it's horrible. And, just for the school to say it's not our problem, they're your kids.
Well, some of those kids though, Tom, they're not necessarily waiting for a sport. They're just just going,
But when I watch them come up as a group, and it's like the whole track team, and then they go right back down,
Yeah.
and they're all going.
No, I'm not saying that doesn't exist. I'm just saying there's a good chunk of kids too. School's out and they're going because it's a half day and the park's closed.
Sure.
They're going to skate or do whatever. But I'm not saying there should
But
be.
to wipe your hands with it for an hour and a half.
I know, I get it.
And then they're right back doing sport. No, those are your kids. So anyway, at some point it would be nice to try and.
So I will continue to voice that with the powers that be because it's a bigger issue than even Park and Rec.
Did you want to talk about what Sky was approached with a week or so ago? That was cool.
Sorry, it's not ringing any bells right now. What?
So Sky was approached by whoever manages the community center. They were having a hard time getting the school to come mow because they've got a bunch of programs and the school they're down a maintenance guy again. And so they hadn't gone down and mowed at all. So they approached Sky and said, is there some sort of agreement that we can make with you guys that maybe we have, they said reduced, and I said, no rent for gym use. If we were to take on maybe mowing and keeping that, which also then gives us the ability to get that football field in shape and utilize that in the off season. So it's something, obviously with a new director, set of eyes coming in and looking at it, but maybe that's a possibility that we try and.
Let me add to that because I failed to mention that Joe is amicable with that. She's looking positively towards that move of taking over field maintenance because it's something that I know the district doesn't want on their plate.
Sure.
So it'd be a good time to contemplate that.
Yes, I think it's a good discussion point, but it furthers the difficulty of, sure, maybe we could come to that agreement with Readiness to Learn, who is supposedly the managers of that facility, right? Yet we write the checks to South Whidbey School District and they suddenly want, they want this from us so that they can do their programs. I think the agreement should be with Readiness to Learn and not the school district. And it also touches on the custodial problems. There's lots of problems with custodial over there and it's tied to the school district. So there's, the union challenges there and all of that. So we can't get things done that need to be done.
And I get that came across, that always comes up. Even in the meeting when Doug was here, it always comes back to custodial, who's going to pay for it, right? Well, all I'm saying is that I think the opportunity, not just the community center, but every field in general, it may be that time, and that would up the ante in terms of usage as well, because now you have a field that's being, maintenance by Park and Rec and used by Park and Rec. So it's just a thought, and as well as I do, they talk about this in Anacortes. I think they're talking about, they do that over there. They do all the grounds. So Park and Rec does the grounds. So just a thought. I get the limitations.
It's just something that came up.
Yeah.
We just started kicking it around.
I know that Joe she did not like that idea in the last meeting I was at. So that's why I said this is a step forward.
Yeah.
So just to be able to think about it, possibilities.
Okay, any other committee reports?
No. All right. We shall move into unfinished business. Max Welton Trails Park Access sign. We have a memo on that. So the permit has been approved. We have an invoice from Pat McVeigh. There was a $700 deposit, which we approved in the vouchers, and then the balance due will be $3,108.
I liked it, but it was very hard to see because mine was askew. I was looking at it like this, trying to rotate it.
What's that, the sign?
The actual, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry, it is
Yeah.
sideways, yeah.
I really liked it. I thought it was a very fair price for detailed, seeing his other works.
I'm amazed
before,
what you
know,
can do. I mean, it's really difficult to encompass everything in a woodworking way. So if you can pull that particular picture off, that's amazing.
Well, and, right, I don't know if you've taken the opportunity to go look at what's at Trustland Trails. So
Yeah.
it's right in line. He gets it. He gets us. He gets our community, knows what he's.
And we had talked about, I think the original child was like very much like a little girl.
Yeah,
And we
and so he
talked
put a
about-
little hat on it.
Yeah, so, yeah.
And an owl, was a
Yeah.
raven or something?
Great.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we had asked to have it changed from addressed shorts. Yeah, so I think all that was addressed.
Okay, so we just, I'll make a motion to go ahead and contract with, Pat McVeigh to go ahead and create and install the new sign, the new Max Weldon Trails Park access sign.
I'll second that motion.
Shall I just read?
Sure.
Okay. It has been moved and seconded to move forward with Pat McVeigh, completing the Maxwell Trails Park entrance sign. Those in favor say aye.
Erica.
Krista, aye.
Jake, I.
Not I.
Jennifer, aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, the motion passes, and move forward with the sign. Moving into the comprehensive plan update.
So I'll touch on a little bit and then Matt will fill in. So the Joint Aquatic Center Committee met as a group and again separately with ARC Architects, and they provided a concept plan consolidating the likes and dislikes from the previous redesigns that you saw last time. They will incorporate additional feedback from this rendition. And the concept plan was available in your packet, and geotechnical survey is underway. And your packets are, okay, well, that's fine. So Matt, do you have anything else to add to that part specifically about the aquatic center?
Yeah, sure. The only other thing we learned is, if you remember, we authorized a special approach to 3 surveys: the topographical survey, the geotech survey, and the hydrology survey, back when we were trying to ease the staff pressure by moving those under the envelope of ARC. And so ARC did that work, and we had some delays because of the lack of insurance on the part of this one contractor, but that was all resolved. And the one that Tom reported earlier, that survey, what they learned is that the geotech and the hydrology survey could be done together. So what happened, as Tom was describing that, those were both surveys happening at once. So we thought they were going to be more involved in 2 separate things, but once that was clarified by ARC, the surveys were able to be done together. So the comment is now, of all 3 that we authorized as a board, those have now all been at least started, initiated. So that's the only other detail. It's geotech plus hydrology.
Okay, Just some grants updates. So as I mentioned earlier, there will be that funding board meeting on the 28th, and we'll find out about our pickleball grants. It's anticipated that we will be in the funding level for the YAF grant, and that we will be the first alternate for the 250,000, oops, I missed a zero, matching WRP local parks grant. And it's expected that that will come through eventually. So I'm not exactly sure how that works if we wait until that second grant comes through to begin work. Unclear about that. And perhaps, I don't know, Matt, you can by this meeting, they will have already moved us up to the funding level, perhaps.
Yep. Yeah. They'll immediately roll out the funding to everybody above the line, and within a week or two, they're going to get feedback from, likely, they're going to get feedback from one or two or three projects who say we can't move forward for one reason or another, timing, resources, matching funds, whatever. So I would guess that the roll down would happen relatively soon. So
Matt, do you want to touch on the Department of Commerce grants at all?
you're talking about the deferred maintenance one, or?
Oh, okay, both, I guess, the Aquatic Center.
Yeah, okay. So we did get official word that the governor signed off the capital budget, and our project is included. So we got 360,000 awarded for calendar year or budget year 2023. And then in another week or so, they're going to do the reappropriation to extend the money that we got last year to allow us to spend it through June of 2025, because our appropriation ends this July 1st. So that reappropriation will happen, and Carrie's been processing the first invoices all the way through the system to get Department of Commerce reimbursement, again, for the first time, because we've been going through all the various steps. And so 2023 money has been appropriated, and we're extending the 2021 money, and we're actually processing the first invoices this week. So
Terrific.
yeah, and then the second one is this RCO grant that came out of the same capital budget cycle, out of the blue, for deferred park maintenance. It was expressed across many different districts that there were lots of piled up deferred maintenance items that were impacting the quality of local parks, user experiences at local parks. And so this program was rolled out quickly. The deadline for applying is end of July. And they're going to board it in August, and they're going to give the money out in September. So it's designed for backlog of maintenance projects, and because they want to be nimble, really the only constraint they've given is that they don't want us to do submit projects that involve disturbing the ground, because of the additional complexity and time that's involved in those kinds of projects with surveys and permits and that kind of thing. So otherwise, it's for equipment, it's for labor, it's for materials. We can use some project admin time, and so lots of things are covered. And the application is maximum $100,000 per applicant. So Tom and Carrie have put together, some options, prioritized list. We just need to decide what we want to put in the application, and I'll take the lead on drafting it to the RCO standards, and then we'll scrub it, make sure that we've addressed all the points, and then we'll go attend the seminar that they've proposed that you saw on Carrie's list, make sure everything's good. But the most important thing we need to do is decide what we want to prioritize in that application, rolling up to 100,000. So you want to share that list, Carrie, Tom?
Well, that's part of the 2024 budget discussion.
Okay. All right. We'll just push it to right there.
Okay. think that's it. And then we're moving on to,
Moving on to the executive director search, interim/permanent. Is that where we are?
yeah.
Okay. So how did I miss all these things? So what does that one say? Placeholder for discussion, possible decision making. That's all that one says?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and just where to find the
Oh, okay.
candidates.
Okay. So thank you for getting the interim posted, getting things onto the SharePoint site. We did have a handful of community members who responded to the interim director request. There are certainly some talented folks out in our community who are looking to be helpful. But that perhaps following in with an interim director is not in the best interest of the district. Under the leadership of our previous director, Doug Coots, the board members that preceded us, 4/5 of us are pretty much brand new within our first terms here. And our current board, our community and our district is on the cusp of some pretty amazing and important projects. We're trying to move forward with a campground, a pickleball court, an aquatic and recreation center, and working on preparing a bond measure to forward the funding of the Aquatics and Recreation Center. We don't have time to delay anymore on hiring an executive director. We need some leadership. Carrie and Sky in running the district offices are doing an amazing job, but they can't do it all. As elected commissioners, we have been entrusted by the voters of the district to lead and to move this district forward. As I said, well, many of us are new. A lot of us were new to public service and new to this board specifically. In the time that we've been together on this board, I think we've gotten to know one another, and certainly over the last 5 months, in the time that we have spent, the hours we have spent in executive sessions, we've gotten to know each other even better. I've learned that we are a board of dedicated community members. We don't just live here. We work here, we recreate here, and we're involved. We care. We're not professional meeting goers. We are dedicated to this district. Also, during these long meetings in our executive sessions, our special board meetings, and even in our general board meetings, the respect that we have for one another, I believe, is tremendous. I believe that we go above and beyond in allowing and facilitating open discussion. Perhaps some points they go on a little bit too long, but I think that that is out of respect for one another, respect for the process, respect for the position that we hold. So I don't doubt our commitment to the district at all. During our executive director search, we were able to narrow the field to one candidate that we agreed would be the best fit for our district. And we believed that he would make a significant contribution to the success of our district along with our community, having been someone who was born and raised here. Along the way, our negotiations stagnated. But we all believe still that he is the best candidate for this position. I think we need to trust the process. We need to trust one another. And I think we need to move forward with reopening negotiations with Brian Thomaser and hire him as our executive director. If anyone wants to have any further discussion, I would like you to keep your comments very brief. I think we have discussed this.
Yeah, I can make a quick comment. Go ahead, Tom.
Just how long has it been since we went through our step and grade system? Like, when are we slated to do that again?
I don't know that, I think it's within the next year, maybe two.
2 years?
Something like
And that's every 4 or 5?
that.
5? The world's changed a lot in the last 3 or 4 years.
Yes, and that's.
So, I mean, just for my thing, I know inflation is absolutely taking a bite out of everybody, and so not starting someone at the start of what could be an underpaid step for that position in today's world. It's a good move to renegotiate.
And to that point, in discussions, we recognize that the grade and step is perhaps not, is likely not appropriate for what we're hiring for. As Matt put forward in the treasurer's report, we're 63K favorable right now. The bulk of that is from the director's payroll savings. The package that we are offering to Brian Thomaser is less than the package that our previous director left at. So there will continue to be some cost savings in there as well. Matt, you wanted to make a brief comment?
Yeah, my only comment to that specific point was, he knew the terms of the the salary range when he interviewed, just like everyone else did. And the two things that I struggled with and I'm still not comfortable with is his approach to that range was to set that requirement for him, his quote unquote need at level 7 in the grade, despite his experience, and not come back to us with any amplifying information about his experience that would, lead us to place him at that grade. And then the second was his comment about not being interested in applying for the CTAC director job, which he was doing as an acting, because it was too visible, and that his interest in our position was that it was somehow less visible, or to allow him to be somewhat less visible. So those two questions for me need to be answered before I can change my position on him, which was a no.
Okay, thank you, Matt. All right, absent any further discussion, I would entertain a motion.
I will make a motion for Jennifer to reopen the negotiation with Brian Thomaser for the executive director position.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
It has been moved and seconded to empower Jennifer Cox to reopen negotiations with Brian Thomaser for the position of the executive director.
So just a moment more for discussion a little bit. So are we empowering Jennifer to complete the negotiation,
To make an offer.
to make an
There
offer?
was a question mark I had. I guess before we complete this motion, we know for sure that Brian is interested in the job and that this particular offer is something he's interested in.
Correct.
And what offer are you describing?
So what it was that he said to us, so it would be the grade 15 step G would be a front load of the vacation bank with 15 days vacation time to meet the needs of what he needs to accomplish this summer with getting his daughter to college, as well as getting his family moved together.
Right, and I'm not comfortable with that. Like, I'm a no vote on him. So I hope that's respected in the same way we respected the staff.
So Carrie, do we need to make the motion again, or?
Is the motion including the offer of the job? I guess that's what Harry brought up.
Oh,
I'm in agreement that it needs to state that. Are we opening up to negotiations, or are we saying we will offer you this job at this given contractual agreement?
Pending, that's great.
Well, but
Yes.
which is
because our,
list in the,
yeah, because the original motion was negotiation,
That's true.
not necessarily offer.
Offer.
all right,
Yeah,
so.
and I'm comfortable with negotiating, but not agreeing to a deal.
Are you saying, Matt, that you,
So Matt, you don't agree with, the offer?
I do not agree with the offer.
However, we do know that the offer is what the candidate requires. So, I think I can change the motion because I believe this is the offer. So why don't I change that motion? Okay,
It's
so,
not really a negotiation. We're saying this is what it is.
Right.
If he was to come back and say, hey, I'd like to be at a different grade instead, or
Right.
I,
this is,
that's not acceptable.
right, this is the offer.
Correct.
Right, so, okay, so, let's see. How is this? I will make a motion to empower Jennifer Cox to offer, offer the Brian Thomaser the terms, I guess, outlined, let's see, at a grade 15, step G from our salary scale, including front-loading the vacation bank with 15 days of vacation. And
our typical benefit package.
and our typical benefit package.
So your motion is to extend him an offer at on his terms.
Yes.
And like I said, I am a no vote, and I would ask that I be paid the same respect as the staff who no voted our number 2 candidate, and we dropped them from consideration.
Is there a second for the motion?
Yeah, I'll second this.
It's been moved and seconded to empower Jennifer Cox to offer Brian Thomaser the executive director position on the terms of a grade 15, step G, including front-loading 15 days of vacation and typical benefits. Pending background check. All those in favor say aye.
Eric, aye.
Krista, aye.
Jake, aye.
Jennifer, aye.
Matt,
All
nay.
those opposed say nay. And all those opposed say nay.
Matt, nay.
The ayes have it and the motion passes. Right. Property acquisition, discussion and consideration. So regarding the property with property address of Maxwell Road, most of it fronts along the highway. There are 4 parcels. It's in the packet here. Carrie put bunch more stuff up on the site. It was extensive, most of it was title report and some background information. So what we were looking at was making an offer on the two southernmost, whether that's the true direction, but the two southernmost parcels. I did have a conversation with Carrie Kirschner, who is the listing broker for the property. She is also family to the estate. She was open to entertaining an offer. I did let her know that we would be talking about it tonight, that this would be a lengthy process.
So do they not currently have an offer sent on the table, or she's not forthcoming?
So it is my understanding there have not been any offers on the entire parcel. I do know that there was an offer made on the front two, where the house, barn, second house, and outbuildings are, and that offer was not even countered.
Oh,
Okay. I did ask a worker in my office who might consider our best pricer to put together some comps for me for discussion. Those came in way too late for me to get them out, so I can pass them along. Can you give me a summary? Oh, now I just gave you the comps. Of an opinion, okay, rats. That's not helpful.
I looked at the acquisition matrix and our results, and, to Jake's point a little bit, that it's, I noticed I scored high, higher than others, but it's all perspective and what you're seeing that property having value as. So for me, an entrance to the campground, an alternative entrance, as opposed to being close to the school, I think is just a completely. Saying that, I also took a little hike, and I don't know, I talked to Tom a little bit about it, but just from 525, there is a enormous gully that would have to be somehow dealt with to get to the campground, if that was even viable in the future. So that's a big question mark for me that I didn't have before when I did this property acquisition matrix.
Good information.
Yeah. And
Was that in the one that's in the forest management,
Correct.
the first south, not
Correct.
correct? Okay.
yeah, because the wetland, I just kind of ruled out that I don't know how
Right.
yeah. But I think the purchase of both those properties has great value to us. And Jake, I appreciated your comment too. I hadn't really thought about the whole thing because it just seemed like a large expense for what we were getting. And so I just wanted to clarify that the acquisition matrix is all in perspective of how you view that particular, column that you're responding to. But for what it's worth, that's a big question mark for me.
So where
Maybe
is the
others
building?
have
Are
opinions.
you saying coming right off the highway?
Right off 525. If you get out and you actually look right down into it, you'll see, that it drops
And it depends on
pretty substantially.
where that upper
It does,
corner is.
because there's a driveway there.
Yeah, because I think that's been inaccessible forever, and so you've got a guardrail right there.
Mhm.
I don't think it's probably as bad as you think.
If you entered it from that north or that south.
But if you look at the topography, it is so flat going across that property, like the topography lines running into our property, it's flatter than pancakes.
Outside of what I'm talking about in terms of the gully.
So you may have an access where you're gonna have to build access off the highway. That's gonna be the worst part, just looking at topography lines. very flat.
And I
across
didn't
the-
know where the property line existed. There's a driveway there that, a private residence that goes up.
Yeah,
But I think, if I understand you correctly, the closer to that driveway, yeah, the less,
yeah, it's not.
the less
Yeah.
obtrusive it is. Yeah.
So just confirming, we're talking about the first 4 coming off of Maxwell.
Yes.
Correct.
These two.
Right,
Okay.
yeah, got it,
What I'm saying, Chris, is
Yeah.
right here,
got it,
right here, from here to here,
right.
it drops right off the highway pretty
Okay.
substantially.
Parallel or perpendicular?
This way into it, we're
Okay.
looking, yeah, I mean, there's a gully right here that doesn't show up right here. What Tom's saying, correct, Tom,
Comes
is over
Yeah.
here, there's a driveway
Yep.
here that goes in somewhere to this property,
Mhm.
but you may have less of an issue elevation-wise in terms of building a road eventually. I just didn't want it to be a huge expenditure, you know, if you've got a major gap there, and you're trying to create a bridge of some sort. So.
Well, another thing to think about too is access and egress and all that. Coming north would be fantastic, easy, potentially. I mean, if you found a flat area, pull into the campground. Leaving, going north wouldn't be bad. However, going south, cutting across traffic with cars flying through that intersection 55, truck, trailer, that's something to think about too.
Yeah, they'd have to leave a different way. Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's gonna fall under washout, that's not gonna be.
Yeah.
And right, so I mean, that could be, those are questions that could be easily asked in advance of making an offer, so that we could actually make better use of our feasibility.
Mhm.
I have no idea what WashDOT requirements are, you know, are we too close to the intersection for an ingress egress of the scope that we're talking about? In thinking about, you know, adding turn lanes.
yeah, you're on an incline as well.
Potentially exit, if you need to go north, potentially exit past the high school. Yeah, one way, kind of like at Dairy Queen, where you can only turn in supposedly going north and turn out going north.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that there,
Uh-huh.
if required by WashDOT.
And that's in the forest management
This one
plan,
is-
right?
This one is,
So would we have to take it out of that to then put,
And depends on the use. You're just creating just an entry
right,
driveway,
right,
you may not have to.
so going back to our acquisition of the Waterman property,
Right.
if we are looking to, if we're just looking to buy it, that's fine. If we are looking to use any sort of grant money to apply to that purchase, it cannot remain in a forest management plan.
and so what does that entail?
It's taxes, it's a calculation, so we would get that calculation out of the assessor's office. And, a rough ballpark figure out from my broker was, you know, maybe 60 grand.
That's basically paying taxes that would have been accrued.
Yeah.
If they had not been in that.
It's a look back, yeah.
What a fantastic opportunity though, discussion
Yeah.
with something that, you know, you can't just snap your fingers and acquire land that borders our parks. Not very often. So it's,
Yeah, I think
It's
that's
pretty-
huge. Jake. The opportunity that's here is not something we should take lightly, just because of the location.
How are we, so, okay, so it sounds like so far, the buyer's not willing to entertain,
So,
I'm sorry, the seller is not willing to entertain partial offers, right? They were given a partial offer for,
no, they're willing to entertain partial offers. The partial offer that was given for the front two parcels was not the dollar value they were looking for. So I just got a read from my broker, and he says for the two, he can't comp it at more than 400.
for the back two parcels, 400.
That's the fair market value.
Well, the market will determine what the fair market value is. So the comp's based upon a look back at other solds,
Oh, gotcha.
right? And doing a look at what has sold and trying to come up with values based upon, right? This one's wet. It's some nice dirt.
It's worthless.
It's some nice dirt. Okay?
Water.
We can't do anything with it. Okay?
Frisbee golf.
It's habitat.
It's habitat.
Okay, so we've been talking about 2 parcels. Would we want to not?
We would not. And so, the house is a 1970s Rambler that they have done some updated, new vinyl, new carpet, new paint. The second house that's there is I don't know that it's much better than a cabin. It has extensive water damage. It's actually successfully growing ivy.
So let me back up just a second. So my question was actually about 1 parcel.
Could we just buy one more?
One.
Do you think that wetlands gotta go with it?
I have no idea.
I
I have
mean,
no idea, right? I mean, that's the nature of real estate. This is what a seller is offering to sell, okay? What do we want to buy and where does that meet, if ever?
It seems to me though, that from a selling standpoint, those first 2 properties are so much more valuable than the second 2 that we're looking at. And that from a selling standpoint, if it were me selling my acreage, yes, somebody might want that extra acreage, but in reality, for the price tag they're asking, maybe easier to negotiate with on 2. It seems like if Park and Rec made an offer on these 2, you're doing the seller somewhat of a service, I believe, in the value of what that land looks like. Because of the way.
There is definite benefit to a very niche buyer for those 2 front parcels. It could be developed into an equestrian property. It's going to take several $100,000 to do that.
Okay, what if you just wanted to live there, you didn't want an equestrian property? How
I'm just looking
attractive
for
is
some
that?
acreage
How attractive
and
is
a
it?
house.
Yeah, acreage and a house, how attractive is that?
Not very, given its proximity to Max Weldon and the highway. The traffic levels and the noise are significant, given the proximity. Right, there's gotta be
Playing
noise.
field, yeah,
Football games with the camera.
yeah.
The Wednesdays alone.
Yeah, yes.
Sorry.
We could put some signs up and
Yeah.
send them down there. Cookies,
Horses.
What is the acreage of those 2 lots again? The forested lots, roughly?
25, roughly.
25.
The 2 we're looking at.
This one
Was
was
it 40?
872 and this was 16 or 17 and change.
Okay.
Okay, so if we wanted some or all of this or whatever, how are we gonna pay for it? Sorry, but
I thought Matt laid that out nicely. That was one of the things that I liked in last meeting about how we would pay for it.
did we lose Matt?
That's part of the capital discussion also, and I don't know if we want to touch on the matrix more before talking about how we would finance it if we wanted to.
And I think just from a finance, I've got about 3 minutes left. So the financing easiest would be just to take a loan out. The payment would be about $2,500 a month. And we would then seek in the next grant cycle grants to reimburse that. So we'd be carrying that for 2 years at $30,000 a year, so roughly $60,000 that we could get reimbursed with what they call a letter of retroactivity. So informing the RCO that we are doing this and that we are going to seek reimbursement for expenses we take pursuant to the timeline that we need. That they do this because They understand that sometimes these properties come up and they're time sensitive and you can't wait for a grant cycle. So we would pay $30,000 over each year for the next 2 years maximum, and then I think the likelihood is relatively high that we would get at least half of it reimbursed by state grant, and if not, grant for grant match, all of it.
Matt, does acquiring the wetland categorically put us into a favorable grant type?
No, not necessarily. The fact that it's an acquisition is what makes it most favorable, because it's preserving lands
I guess that's what I meant.
in the public trust. It's just any lands. It could be a dirt parking lot. If it's preserving it in the public trust, and there are uses that are supported in our comprehensive plan, that reflecting the needs of the public, then it ranks very highly on their scale.
So the fact that most of it would not be developed at all other than an access road doesn't help in terms of attaining certain types of grants?
No, it just allows you just have to tell the story around it, that we're preserving this as forest land.
I guess that's what I meant.
Yeah, it's for the grant that we would apply for. It's unlikely that would be a differentiating factor.
Down the road, potentially a trail going around the circumference of the wetland. I would say of interest too.
That's what I thought. I think it'd be really nice.
You could.
Yeah. Trail systems.
A lot of
Again,
wetland parks.
Again, it's how you tell the story. So you have, there's one slide that says what's the community need, and so you can outline the need. The story could be the campground is a community need, trails are a community need, and wildlife habitat, and so if all those things are in the story, then it gets a higher score.
Is there a way to walk through two at a time by contacting them?
Yeah, we already have that permission.
Oh.
Yeah, yep.
Okay, so we could schedule that with you, or schedule it,
We don't need a schedule. She just said, no, feel free.
okay, to just run.
I didn't get accosted.
I mean, if we wanted to view the front two parcels in that, yeah, she needs to be present for that, but that's not where our interest lies. Our interest lies. So, I mean, it would, you know what, let me back up on that. Let me give her a courtesy call. So when you guys want to do that, and you've got something together, let me know. I'll just give her a quick call, let her know, hey.
Yeah, maybe the campground committee could go at one time and then.
Try us.
Yeah.
I think that the bigger question is the whole 525 access.
Yeah.
Right? That's,
Yeah.
I mean, start there, because otherwise for me, I don't think that acquisition is quite as.
Yeah. I was gonna
That's
say,
attractive.
what's the due diligence on this? What?
We want to make sure we can put a road on it, right? We don't get so far down the road and discover we can't.
Right, so is that Island County permitting, is that DOT?
No, that's washed out, because that's the highway.
That's all washed
That's
out.
washed out.
So we need to reach out to WashDOT somehow.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point. They have an 80-foot corridor that's their state highway easement, and so that extends into this property. And we would, in applying for a grant for this, we would encumber it. And so if the consequence is if the state ever decided to widen Highway 525, they could do that and take back this land, the portion of the land that's in the right of way. So we would have to then, I think it's likely that if we had an access that then just got moved 60 feet into the further, or got the first 60 feet cut off of it, we could state that the use had not been disturbed and that the public had not suffered any loss from it. So that's something we would have to discuss with the grant managers because of the state easement on that first 80 feet of frontage.
And Matt, do you know if there's any, with the proximity to the intersection at Max Welton, having a significant ingress egress, are there any boundaries? Are we too close? Are we far enough away from the intersection?
Yeah, that's a county road, so the county setback is smaller. I think it's 20 feet. It's whatever it is on Max Welton. So my guess is it's probably not an issue there.
No, maybe I'm not asking it correctly, Matt, I'm sorry. So with the proximity where we want to put in a driveway on the highway, the distance from that point to the intersection at Max Welton, whether, I don't know how many few hundred feet that is, I wonder if there's anything in the WashDOT that says, no, you are too close to the intersection, or, yeah, no, you're fine, you can proceed.
Yeah, don't know.
Is this the kind of thing that we can just go to WashDOT and ask some questions, or should we?
There are two. There's an office with last check when we did this with the trails grants. There are two employees who deal with state highway setbacks and easements, and there's a permit process if you want to do something like we were talking about building a trail in the state highway corridor. They're the ones. There's a standard permit form that says here's what you want to do, and they approve it. So yeah, there's an office that you can talk to. I can't remember what the title is, but it's at DOT.
Okay.
And we would fill in this permit to put an access across their easement, and we'd have to submit a drawing of it probably, and then it's relatively straightforward.
Okay, here we go. Roland Stone and Corey Ferdinand.
Website.
Yeah, I just Googled WashDOT setbacks, and that's what I got. So it looks like this is their design manual.
Yep. Yeah, you found it.
Yep. And then these are the contacts. Skagit, Ireland, and Whatcom County, these two people.
Yep, that's them.
Okay, thanks.
Did we want to discuss the matrix at all, or no?
I would just.
Well, it is what it is. I looked at it and I looked at everybody's results, but once again, as I said earlier, it varies. I don't think that gives clear direction, but like to Jake's point. But I think we just discussed it. We're all on the same page.
Yeah, we're still curious.
Yeah, curious. We need more information.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and it was designed to get everybody's perspective, knowing that everybody didn't have expertise in all these things, but everybody would come to their own conclusions, different opinions and angles on it, not presupposing everybody was going to know everything about making an individual rating. So you would get the average from the number of participants, and it's clear that we value the subdivided property more than we value the whole property, that was the objective, was to understand what we should prioritize. So I think it served its purpose.
Do we need some sort of motion for anything at this point, or is it's just still
Research.
exploratory research?
Yep.
So maybe a walkthrough, or walk something trial, try to see more of it.
So I like that idea. Matt, are you open to a trail walk, a trail committee walk, and then the campground committee taking a walk and kind of getting do some noodling on that?
Sure.
All right, shall we move on to the 2024 budget discussion?
Okay, so basically, we haven't usually done this, but what I wanted before we really dig into the budget, we meaning the staff putting numbers in, I wanted to know about you guys' priorities. And you know that we have a priority for staffing, increasing staffing. I don't have figures quite for that yet. We're still kind of sorting out what that would look like. But I wanted to start with the capital projects and equipment budget. And, I guess first, just kind of free thinking. Is there anything that you have not seen on the budget, or something that you want to see on the budget higher up in priority?
I'll be honest, I went through a lot of this and it was pretty overwhelming for me, more than anything, that I was trying and I didn't know exactly where we were taking it during this meeting. Like if we were seeking approval on certain things or just tonight. What I thought we were doing is just a vision for where we're headed.
That's exactly what I.
Okay.
And we're gonna look at some specific items,
Yes.
And, decide, this should be a higher priority and sooner priority. We don't want to do that. But if there's anything that, as you've been looking at what I provided, or just in general, a wish list. So for instance, last year I was like, we really need a porta potty out at Trustland Trails, so we worked that in there. But is there anything like that you guys would like to see that hasn't been represented in this?
Yeah, and Eric, just note that we built the levy proposal for the last levy based on our 5-year budget projection. So that's the foundation, right? And then if we want to change things like the staffing profile, these will be changes to that 5-year budget projection that are outside the calculation that we use to come up with the current M&O levy. So we'll need to then factor in how we're going to pay for those changes like that, fundamental changes, and things that are outside this capital plan or comprehensive plan program plan. So, an extra porta potty or something like that. Again, we're going to have to factor in if it's outside what was in the 5-year budget projection that was used to calculate the levy.
And all I'll say is, remember, when we go through this, I always say, this is for what we have right now. Because we go scroll up, we're taking a right turn, changes everything. We go scroll up, left turn, changes everything. So, we get stuff out of our plate, it's like, oh boy, here we go. So this is just for the existing operation, nothing new.
Okay, I'll start. I'd say my general concerns are actually also staffing. That's a big one, because none of this other stuff can happen until we fix that. There can't be growth unless we fix that. And then my other concern kind of goes to that. If staffing is infrastructure, which it is, it's infrastructure. I keep hearing about the increased usage, everything from restrooms to parking to fields. And I don't know, I'm just very focused on plumbing, and water usage, And especially, and I know the aquatics facility is its own project and has its own plan, but that, if that goes in, that's gonna bring more users to the parks as well. There is going to be, there are gonna be just more people coming here, more people, you know, if they're dropping their kids off for swim lessons, they're going for walks in the park and they're stopping and using the bathroom and then on the other side of the park, as the campground progresses, how that is going to influence. And so that's just in general, my big concerns, both in terms of budgets as well as capital projects. Are we ready for 10 years from now and 20 years from now?
Not ready for 2 years from now.
So that's, so without getting into, you know, specifics, okay, those are just my main concerns.
So
That's
if
good to
you
hear.
look at, I mean, primarily the equipment, that is looking at real world replacement. So as our equipment's aging and everything, that's probably the easiest one for us to say, hey, at 10 years or 12 years, we're gonna replace this piece of equipment. You know, the dump truck is one thing that, hey, it's almost 20 years. You look, okay, do we need to replace that? Depends on, are we going off-site even more? And if we are, then instead of a gas dump truck, we're getting a diesel dump truck. So I mean, we looked at a lot of stuff like that. So the equipment portion of the capital, that's like spot on. Like that stuff is going to happen. But there may need to be more pieces added if we get a turf field, if we get whatever else, if we get the campground, probably need another utility vehicle of some sort, you know. So at that point, things will be added, but for the operation and just for cycling older pieces of equipment out, that's very, very accurate in what we're going to do, in my opinion.
That first number is what replacement costs after the equipment item.
Oh, that's an estimate, yes,
That's
right there,
estimate.
column B.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I share Krista's sentiment. I've talked to Tom several times about just water. I mean, you know, the climate's changing, and to not prepare for that, I think would be not so smart. And we had the discussion already about septic issues with soccer club, ultimate on the upper fields, right? And one of the questions I remember asking Doug, asking Tom was, can we expand that septic system? To your point, Krista, I think that's something we need to be head smart about, because the park it's going to continue to get more usage, and those organizations are going to, you know, increase in size. And so if our plumbing, as you put it, isn't set up for that, that needs to be factored into our plan. I would start with the issue that we're having now with this, if we're having septic problems because of usage on those soccer fields, and let's start there. That's one of the main points.
So we did alleviate that. We haven't had an overflow alarm this whole time because we adjusted and we dictated to that user group. You can only have so many people here.
Yeah.
Because it's not just the septic issue. There's no parking.
Right.
And so it's like, you can only have so many people come and go within this block, and that's going to need to be, you know, probably done. There's still nobody using it on Fridays. So guess what? You want to utilize the facility. Some teams have to use Friday. So we can spread out and we can manage and we can do all that stuff. But yes, it is a 20-some-year-old.
Yeah.
And it just seems like with the pickleball edition, that's going to be huge.
Yeah,
you know, that now you're going to have constant usage. So that's why I bring that up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Did you want to talk about the well?
Yeah, kind of to your point about
We talked
different
about
infrastructure sort of and water.
So I did get a couple numbers. First one, it was basically our existing well, our big well. It's a refresh of about 120 to 150 gallons a minute. And so that's right now, that's our only operating well for this side of the park. Okay. It's about 20 years old. So it's lived a really good life. And at some point here, we need to look at replacing that. School just did theirs. When I was talking, with them, I'm like, well, what made that decision for you? And it's like, basically, there's a usable life on these. It's about 15 years. So when you get into that 20-year range, and you're moving as much water as we move, things are, you have a chance for failure. Right now, we don't have a backup well. We have a well that's inoperable next to it. And so he gave us a number for resurrecting that well. New well pump, you clean it, new screens, everything, and we get that one back up operating. I don't think you need to do both right now, but if an aquatics facility is approved, you have to have a backup well, because if the big well goes down, you shut the doors to everything.
Right.
And so I think that was $37,000.
Yeah.
Should that remain as a backup well, that doesn't become the primary well? You're talking about reinstating an older well.
It would be a backup well that if something were to happen, the first one, whether it's the starter
Yeah, I got you.
blew up, whatever it is, you have an active well that you can switch on, you can switch over, and you've got at least bathroom service. You're not going to be able to irrigate everything off that well, but it's giving you potable water for your facilities.
And the soccer fields are a completely different well, correct?
So the irrigation comes off our main well, out of the tank, gets boosted up there for irrigation. There's a small well that just services that building, restroom facility. That's a totally separate well.
But the
And
irrigation
how
is
old
coming.
is that?
How old is that one?
Yeah.
Same time frame, 2000-ish. Yeah,
So all the irrigation in the park comes from the same well?
from the big well and the tank. Yes, just sheer volume.
Okay, I'm seeing 3 different prices from this drilling service.
Yes.
Can you just help me figure out what? So there's one that's 40,
So the 40.
42.5.
Yep. So the 42.5 is basically going in, taking out the old main pump that services everything right now. You can kind of see a breakdown. It's a 20 horsepower pump. Pump alone's, $13,000.
Yeah.
Attached to that is the one that's 14,141.
Yeah.
And he said what that basically is he doesn't know until you actually pull the pump out of the ground to see kind of how much slurry, basically, when you pull a lot of water. He usually recommends, if need be, that you go in and you do a well clean out, scrubbing, surging.
While you're in there.
Yeah, so you pull it out, and that service goes along with the total replacement. So you're looking
60.
Yes, you're looking around close to $60,000.
Okay.
And
Okay,
so
got it.
I'm just trying to get pricing because I'm kind of blown away, like, wow, that's a lot of money to replace. But this is a huge pump, and it is our lifeblood.
So because it is, let's say this is being done, then how long does that take? And aren't we completely without water while this is happening?
I would say no, because we've got the benefit of having 100,000 gallons of water that we can fill our tank.
Okay.
We can shut that off. He comes in, he does the work, and that would be something we would do in the winter. Honestly, I don't know how long it would take. I would say it might take a day or two.
Okay.
Just my best guess. I haven't asked those questions.
Okay.
Just getting pricing, just so we can start thinking about it and talking about it. That makes sense?
Yeah, part of this is extending how far out we're looking. So this is, again, kind of
updating our financial policies, and one of them is extending our forecast further out, and also having equipment replacement plan. So all of these items, and eventually my goal is to have a 20-year plan as well. So, sorry, I heard of bunnies just ran by.
So the other bid, the 37,300,
That's
so
for
that is replacing and refurbishing the well that's not functioning.
the backup.
That would be it.
Got it. Okay.
So again, a starting point, obviously we'd have to get more pricing on that before we did anything, but at least it gives us a starting figure that we can plug in and ballpark it. And kind of come up with a plan of when we're gonna wanna do those types of things.
So I'd like to show you towards the bottom here, which was not what you would have seen in the preparation documents. So down here, I didn't label this yet, but this was the amount that we had previously forecasted for capital projects. So this was capital projects, this is loan payoff. So if you were comparing, you'd be comparing this right here. This was what we were expecting in 24, and this is what is currently on this. This is by no means a final list at all. But that's what the differences are. But I don't know if can you guys see that there? They make it bigger.
When was the 152 set then?
That was what we forecasted last year
Last
for
year.
24.
Gotcha, okay.
So usually, when we're doing this, the reason we I don't know if you still have it in there, we put a deferred maintenance line item.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Because if I don't bring it up, you guys will never know that. And that's stuff that usually continues to get pushed out, but at some point, we have to figure out a way to do some of this stuff.
But now okay, so going to the deferred maintenance, I believe you're already trying to get estimates on the concession building roof, right?
That's that right here.
Okay,
Yeah, so
perfect.
those are, if you look up there, if you can see,
That
those
one's
are a
actually
go.
in the sheet
All of the 23 things were expected
Have to
to,
go.
Yep.
yeah.
Okay, terrific. And then there's also that grant.
Yes. And I don't know how you guys are gonna vote on what you're gonna wanna rate that grant for. It was very convenient that pricing to replace a mower that we were gonna replace anyway is literally $100,000.
And which is the maximum.
And so it's like, well, if you wanna make a real easy grant, it says you can buy equipment, bang.
Yeah.
And that's however you guys wanna do it, it doesn't matter to me, it's
Yeah.
just,
Yep.
do you have a parking lot and sports complex overlay?
And
Anywhere?
I just want to throw out there something that's been
Yes.
kicked down year after year after year after year is that elevator.
Yep. We talked about it.
And that provides access to a different user base. So I think I would like us to also consider that as a potential contender.
Interesting.
Just
For the
because,
deferred maintenance.
for the deferred maintenance.
Sure.
I'm just saying if we're throwing out possible contenders for that grant, because otherwise I see that just getting continually kicked down.
I think the only problem with that, you don't have a really good idea of how much that's going to cost or who would come in, rebuild that building to fit a new elevator.
Yeah, because from when we talked, this was a long time ago, we talked about it, that existing
Nothing fits that.
It's not gonna
It's
fit.
not gonna.
So you're talking a major renovation of how.
Yeah, it's not an R&R, it's a.
So
anyway,
it's not a project then that would fit
What I
within
heard
the
from
scope
Matt.
of that grant.
Yeah, from what I heard from Matt, he said they didn't even want things where you're moving dirt
Okay.
because of permitting and, you
This
know what I'm
is
saying?
why I asked, right?
But, I mean, like one of the biggest things that I want to see, very expensive thing, is overlaying the sports complex parking lot. If you drive up there right now, it's all green. Like every scene now is growing grass. And it's 20+ years old, it needs to be done. It's $140,000. Where do you get it? We don't have that kind of discretionary money just kicking around. So.
Yeah, so we have that on the budget
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
127.
But we also
and
have
25.
this well project and the second well, and if you total them up, we're at about $100,000.
That's definitely a deferred maintenance kind of.
It's on the deferred maintenance. I don't think any dirt would have to be moved.
Nope.
There'd be slurry involved, but I don't think that.
Well, and Tom brought up the water's the lifeblood of the park.
Yeah.
That has to take a priority.
Shut the doors.
Yeah.
Close down.
But, and, just kind of, and I'm not discounting the mower. I mean, obviously that's something that we need, but a piece of equipment, I think, is perhaps a little easier to finance through more traditional, right? That's why we have payments. You know what I mean? Like that is just easier. It fits into some other financial structure, right? Whereas a well, like it's really, that doesn't necessarily fall neatly into a loan or payment plan kind of thing. So
That's half out of pocket. I like that. I mean,
I think that would be viewed more favorably than a
Yeah.
piece of equipment.
I think so too.
and especially if we're like, and we're working on this potential aquatic center and we just got these grants for pickleball court. And so we are going to have increased usage and that is going to put more pressure on our water as ready.
Yeah, and more liability
Yes.
if anything, if it fits.
And if we can document like how long it's been on the deferred maintenance, you know what I mean? Like we've been trying to get to this for X many years and it's this many years old and.
Sure.
So that's a potential contender for that grant. And if we don't get it, I still think it's something that we have to plan for.
For so many years, we were just picking and choosing, filling out the last few boxes, especially of capital. But we just don't have that money in order to keep us in the green. If you add that, that gets us in that red, and we got to be out in the green for 5 years. And so when you got out there 2, 3, 4 years, it got really thin. And then everything just, back to deferred maintenance for that, because it just doesn't fit. And then the next year, something else comes up and something you had planned, like, man, it's probably not worth it either. So we are in a lot better financial situation now where we do have more space, but it gets tight real quick.
But
especially with what we're looking at doing.
a lot, yeah, exactly.
Do you want to talk about the roof? Yeah.
That's later on the agenda, so not quite yet. So I just want to reiterate that this was just a very beginning snapshot. It's going to look different, definitely different by the time you see it. And for instance, I was looking back at my budget notes and there were some requests that we had from the public for some benches and such at parks. So anyway, so it'll look a little different, but that getting you guys' sense of priorities. Is there anything else anybody wanted to add for that? It's helpful.
benches or something that we could hit, Rotary or Eagles or Boy Scouts.
Mhm.
Girl Scouts off the floor.
Yeah. Okay, Matt, did you glean our general leaning on the grant, deferred maintenance grant?
All right, say that again.
Did you get the gist of where we were going with the deferred maintenance grant?
Oh yeah, no, I heard it clearly. We just need to
Okay, good.
decide at the next meeting. We need to
Do they
decide on what those are.
do they have to vote that? Is there some sort of resolution they need to make for the grant?
Yeah, I mean, we'll make a resolution in July to actually apply for the grant, and we can include in that resolution what we're going to include in the application. So that's probably a good idea.
Oh, sorry, one more item that Matt and I discussed, that disappeared, is adding up here in the loans, that property acquisition. Which I
If we
think
want
was
to,
gonna,
if we want to consider it, we need to stick that out there. 2024 and 2025.
yeah, so it'd be like 30,000 a year.
Yeah, that's what it would be. That's assuming the 500K. Yeah, and you can, I mean, you could assume that at the 2-year point, we would then get the grants to reimburse at least half of it. So you could comfortably cut that down to 15K or to 0 after 2 years.
I think that's. All right.
The only other thing was to move the pickleball.
Vote for what?
To move the
Pickleball?
move the pickleball into the 2024, 2023, 2024 column.
Yes, explain that. Remember
The parking,
are we talking about the parking or what was
No.
down in the comprehensive?
No, the full capital, just because it's capital we would expend and then be reimbursed.
Can you see the screen and am I pointing at the right thing here?
Yeah, those line items, because they go from the left-hand margin to actually being expended in a year. So we should move them over since it's likely that we'll actually expend them in a year.
So to 25 is
Yeah, I mean, I'd move them into 2023 and 24 based on what we think the timeline will be.
right. Okay, and
Because we're actually going to spend them.
we're having a hard time hearing you. Work it out with him. Yeah, sure.
Sounds like he's on the
All right, so the level of service, did we just lose it? Level of service discussion, we're moving to July. Or
What
we're
if
doing a
anybody wants
workshop?
to vote to table it to a workshop
to,
or something? I don't know.
oh, the level of service?
Yeah, the company.
Sure. So make a motion to table, do we need a motion?
Well, do we want to, well, what has been tossed around was switching to working on that in a workshop where that's just the topic, like.
That, so I did spend some time looking at that. And it's kind of a lot. And I got a little lost in the various grids. Like I went back to our comprehensive plan and like what was there for that. And then I looked at what was given and then the RCO planning requirements. And it's not easy, for sure. And it sounds as if we really need to pay attention to this because it's very important in terms of grants coming up. And we need to have that, if I understand it correctly, we need to have alignment with our comprehensive plan with the level of service so that we can successfully acquire grants in the future. Do I understand that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay. So as reticent as I am to have another meeting, that might be better off in a workshop.
It needs to be a
A
workshop.
single topic.
So maybe what we can do is schedule, I mean, I hate to say it, but it's gonna take more than one workshop, I would think.
Just for the level of service?
No, for the
For
whole
the
thing.
comprehensive plan. That I agree. Can we take it a chunk at a time?
Yeah,
And,
that's what
yeah.
So, since Matt's not here, and he would be kind of integral in that discussion, or director. Can we just state that we're gonna schedule workshops to cover that topic?
Yes.
Yeah, so if you could just rub the usual email for finding those availability. Seems like that first one, 90 minutes, 120 minutes.
Oh, for level of service? Again, if we keep it just focused on just one, like not try to
Get through the whole thing.
not try to just work on the comprehensive plan. If we can just be super focused and just tackle level of service, can we keep it to a max of 90 minutes?
Okay.
Does that sound like absolute max?
And Jake, you were available, was it later in the day on Mondays?
Mondays, I'm usually available.
Oh.
I have Mondays off.
Okay.
I can be flexible on Mondays.
If I know far enough in advance, I can make that work.
If currently right now, I can be flexible on Tuesdays also, so I'm taking Tuesday off for maternity.
So should I schedule this in July or August?
It can be July.
Yeah, July would be better.
I think we need to.
Earlier in July.
We need to, the comprehensive plan is a real priority for us. But it is a lot, and if we just break it into smaller, manageable chunks, I think we have a better shot of getting this done. How's that sound?
I would agree. I think what I said earlier that I was a little overwhelmed with all the materials, and I'm just, I didn't know where we were gonna head on this, but
Yeah.
it's a lot just even, for me anyway,
Yeah.
to saturate what was there.
Absolutely, absolutely. So
Matt is back, just so you know, so we can have his.
So Matt, regarding the levels of service, some of us are having a hard time getting our head around it, and we were wondering if it makes sense to schedule a workshop to focus on this topic rather than trying to roll it into a regular meeting. And that also, in general, working on the comprehensive plan might go a little easier if we kind of do a smaller chunk at a time.
Yeah, that's what Carrie was talking about.
No idea what you just said, Matt,
Yeah,
sorry.
sorry, Matt, we can't hear you.
Hey, Matt, maybe write in the chat.
Oh, yeah, he said he wouldn't, yeah.
Great plan.
Oh, plan, okay.
Great plan. Okay, terrific. Thank you so much. So Carrie will reach out to all of us to get a workshop scheduled in July so that we don't push this out too much longer because we know that we do need to address this.
Okay.
Roofing. Is that the last item?
Business.
And it shouldn't take very long, but he just went. Just stepped out.
All right, Tom has been soliciting estimates. Capital budget included 30K for this project.
Right.
Composite versus metal.
Right. Do we have?
So, and I believe that, no, you don't have anything there. He's still getting it, but it sounds like the estimate for a composite would be under 20,000, just barely maybe. And then, I don't remember what the metal was, but it was probably gonna be over 30,000.
Composite versus metal.
Yeah, roof.
Yeah, you can turn that back on.
All right. So, I got one quote already, back from Valentine Roof. Local guy, runs in the park all the time. He's an estimator, and I said, hey, shoot me a price. And so I did a couple months back, kind of started getting an idea. Price has actually changed, so I had it updated. So at this point, duration max shingles, so like architectural composite asphalt roofing, price dropped. It was $19,000 and change.
Oh, wow.
Metal actually went up, and it's now just about $34,000.
What's the lifetime? What's the life of each material?
So they're both going to be in that 30-year range. What we have on there right now, old metal, you're looking 30 years or something. Maybe.
When metal was first coming out.
Yeah, so
It's not quite the same as what you're making today.
No, so the other problem that we have is because we have to go prevailing wage. Prevailing wage to put metal on is $100 an hour, shingles are 60. And so everything else that we have is metal. And the only reason I'm even considering that is the site. There's no trees. And that roof, I've never been on 25 years of working here. It's out in the middle of, everything.
Right.
And so you don't have needle buildup or pine cones or any of that kind of stuff. And so for the cost difference,
It's kind of big.
Yeah.
which way do you guys want it? It honestly doesn't matter to me.
So you're leaning composite is what you're saying?
I am right now just because of if we can keep it under $20,000, we don't have to go out to the whole bid bond thing.
I'm in the midst of putting on a second metal roof, and I have composite as well, same thing though.
Yeah,
Metal roofing has gone up dramatically,
yeah,
and I'm a fan of it.
sure.
But I understand completely what you're saying about that particular place, and I would be a fan of composite over metal for all the reasons you stated.
The other thing that we're going to have to deal with on that is the shingles, especially on the south facing side, the sunny side of that building, are getting absolutely hammered. We don't walk out on a metal roof.
We don't what?
We don't walk out on a metal
Yeah, it's
roof.
tough to get up there and clean.
Yeah.
Like if it's a composite roof,
Right.
we're still going to tie off, but you can actually walk on it without slipping, worry about slipping. So I mean, that's another, if we start using that building more, we need to wash the windows and do that kind of stuff. I'm just thinking that the composite roof would be easier for us to maintain the building.
Okay, and just to circle back to what we talked about before, so let's say we do decide to tackle that elevator
Yes.
and it's going to require some sort of remodel of that building. can we do it under that roof? Or would we need to change that roof for the remodel?
It seems a lot easier to do composite roofing than it would metal roofing in terms of, if it had to be retrofitted, the elevator completely. In my mind, metal roofing is a lot more difficult to do that than composite.
Okay.
Tom, you said we just finished building our house, and the ease of walking on it, the price difference, the architectural, composite metal looks good, lasts longer than we used to. I would need composite.
So I've contacted two other companies, so I've got more pricing coming in. And so we'll try and get 3 bids and we'll go from there.
All right. So that would be, so we had budgeted 30,000 for that for this year. So that would be a savings of about $10,000, which would kind of squeeze this in.
Yeah.
That would squeeze in the, pickleball court cut and fill.
Yeah.
Or the parking.
Floating numbers out there.
Yeah, so we can maybe revise the budget.
So we'll try and get this one sewed up and get it awarded, because we're going to want to line this up, for September, October.
Yeah.
Beat the weather type of thing.
September.
And then we'll make some of these other decisions. So, okay. Great.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
You betcha.
Glad you have so many connections.
Mhm.
What happens when you live somewhere your whole life? So just on a personal note, it can happen anytime. My grandson's going to be born very soon.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to be out of here for a week or two. So
You gonna change some nappies?
if I remember. You're gonna have to.
Congratulations.
It's awesome.
Yes, congratulations.
Yeah, now it's gonna be fun. So yeah, we're gonna load a motor home, go to Longview, and stay down there for a bit. So I will be checking in and everything, but Austin already knows he's fill the shoes.
Yeah. You can go be grandpa.
Buying some
You know when we
Wheaties.
got the Special Olympics.
Oh, I'll tell you about that after, yeah.
All right, we're ready to call it? All right, we are adjourned at 8:31. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you all.
Okay, so I
You
got
bet.
to sign that.